So in terms of building infrastructure for a shoppable or T-commerce future, you've got to factor in the content side and the retailer side. So what are we doing there? So focusing on the content side first, we're content agnostic. So we work with we work with content owners like NBC, Disney, the works, and NBC is public, so let's think about them. They have hours and hours and hours of content. We're processing that content for all of this metadata. So you've got to kind of think about that in the future of our industry and how that metadata will be leveraged in content ownership rights. And then swinging back over to the retailers, like I wanted to get ahead of myself on a moment ago, we also take in all of the product catalogs for the retailer side and create lookalike models from a identity perspective at the object level. So a lot of people think about identity as the human being, and we're actually creating a new level of identity inside of content and at the product level, because our tech and AI can get so granular with the way that we look at products and then correlate it back to the content. So that's why it's so necessary to have this infrastructure, because it's a massive amount of content and a massive amount of product data that KERV is weaving together with each of our customers.
So that infrastructure gets built, those things get weaved together. What's the ultimate vision? What might that future look like?
So the vision in the future, right now think about us functioning with the future in mind, but my colleagues say crawl, walk, run. And like they say in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we are working with the future in mind, but it might not look exactly that way. A few of my visions would be, what if we actually allowed the opportunity to bid on what retailer actually got the opportunity to shop the item? So that's a way future idea. So you're watching Housewives and whatever one of the talent has on, you've got Walmart and Target and Bloomingdale's and Macy's all queued up for the most similar match to actually buy the correlation. So that's kind of one of our ideas, as to kind of change the bidding infrastructure, and also to change what supply is. Because in that instance, the content is the supply, but it's the overlay kind of metadata that you're leveraging versus an ad slot inside of the content. Taking kind of a step back right now, the more crawl or walk versus the sprint I just talked to you about is allowing us to work with each of the content owners, like Netflix and their perspective on a consumer's experience, NBC, their perspective on a consumer experience, Disney and others, and have them kind of tell us this is what we're open to, and us be able to create the automation infrastructure in between. So to be a little more specific, let's indicate to the consumer over time when content could be shoppable. And could we tell them, hey, when you see this, you can pause and kind of get into another unit, another kind of dimension. Or we have one of our content owner partners that wants to give the consumer the option at the front. So you're about to go in and watch your content and whatever your streaming service is, and ask them, do you want this to be shoppable or not? Do you want this to be lean back and allow the consumer to actually say, you know what, this is Housewives or The Bachelor or whatever it is, I want to shop what they have, versus this is a little bit more serious content, or I've had a really long day. I don't want any of that opportunity. So we're kind of navigating between what each of the consumer experience kind of owners wants, which ends up being the content owner. And what we need is flexibility in the testing. And that's what really we're focused on the unique user level for, is to really understand what's working and what isn't. Because at the end of the day, we just want to solve the problem that everyone has, which is to shop the outfit of an actor or actress that they love. And right now, people have to create, Instagram accounts or secondary pages, and people have to go put a search into Google, and we're trying to cut that and allow them to shop it right then, whether it's exact or similar. Because that's one of the big points, is that we have a similar match capability as well. So it doesn't always have to be exact.
So for all this to work, you ultimately have to get the consumer behavior to shift, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a certain amount of training that you need to involve. Can you maybe just talk about the different philosophies there and where that's going?
Yeah, 100%. So One of the best practices that we're suggesting across all of our partners is some sort of call to action indicator strategy. So let's use NBC as just an example, to say to NBC in every piece of content and every platform that they own to create one singular call to action user experience. So if as you're watching what have you show, the same symbol is showing up for you than anyone else, and using the house ad slots to tell consumers, hey, when you're seeing this symbol, you know you can pause that content to shop it. And actually, they're having to invest in that education to their consumers, creating social campaigns that are doing the same, but selecting one symbol across all of their platforms and content, and telling the consumer what that is. You swing to the other side of that, and we have another content provider that I mentioned to you that's actually just telling them up front, hey, select if you want it to be shoppable or not. So those are two very different schools of thought, and those are the two we're seeing at this point. There is also some testing where the call to action is just right real time in the content, like literally pause to shop. So right now, a lot of that testing is happening, and from my perspective, and hopefully the content owners watch this, but we're gonna need some standardization, because even though NBC, Disney, Netflix are all their own platforms, you're speaking a lot of times to the same consumer. And so that's one of the kind of the problems that we're having, not problems, but the opportunities we see, and is that we're kind of having to take the lead of a lot of the design teams at these design UX teams at these content owners, versus them kind of creating a coalition together and saying, hey, we're all solving this T-commerce problem as a group. I'd love to actually do this with Beat TV if possible, but how can we get them to come together and say, hey, if we created a singular, very similar experience across our platforms for the same consumer, we will actually solve the problem faster. And right now we're kind of we're navigating every single relationship with their point of view, which is totally fine. We're agnostic here, but I think we'd get there faster. And then you have the coalition of the retailers who are trying to innovate as well, and they're having to innovate with each platform uniquely as well. And I know for a fact that they want to innovate in a more cohesive way, so the money is there, the dollars are there. And so that's kind of one of the opportunities that would be great if we could get folks to the content owner side and the platform side to align on some testing paths that would be singular. Like, imagine if there was one call to action and one symbol. I work for KERV, so let's say it's a KERV K for sample's sake. And any piece of content you're watching, there's a little watermarked K in the corner, and you knew you could pause that content and shop it no matter what platform. Again, for example's sake, hopefully that gets my point across, but it's going to be tricky that there's a different user experience on this platform versus this platform, when at the end of the day you just want to solve the problem of selling the shirt or selling Rachel's blouse, that sort of thing.